Here's your diamond insight for tonight of an opportunity for tough conversations. With only hours before the Summit for Democracy is held in Lusaka, we note the glee by the New Dawn government as it co-hosts the historic event. Yes, the democratic credentials have been elevated by the summit that will attract over 21 African heads of state and global governance agencies that will gather at the Mulungushi International Conference Center. To us, some tenets of good democracy are fair comment to be heard on both national and global affairs, and in this regard we challenge African leaders for once to speak on behalf of the 1.3 billion Africans. It is no secret the mineral-rich continent has been turned into a battleground for geopolitical rivalry between the East and the West that are all pulling from each side. To avoid being ripped apart in what we call the second scramble for Africa, the opportunity to correct injustices such as indefinite trade imbalances is now. Lusaka must be an anchor in tackling draconian international treaties that dwarf African nations from even having a permanent seat at the United Nations UN Security Council. Why should we always be at the receiving end when the continent holds 75% of the world's highly sought-after minerals? Aside from this grievance, African leaders must challenge one another on true democracy because some are involved in mass looting of natural resources at the expense of their struggling populations who are often used as political tools for violence against their own kind. Is it not a shame that in this era of advanced technology, there are over 400 million Africans going to bed hungry every night? The Africa Continental Free Trade Area has failed to exist for its intended purpose because leaders have not upheld the tenets of good democracy, because without it there cannot be business, of course, with the exception of monarchs. Regional insecurity, terrorism and hunger are offshoots of failing to adhere to equality, and sadly dictates have been left to the West, which we say must stop. It is time to stand for Africa and lead an agenda coined by us to end unfair sanctions imposed because of merely adhering to what is rightly accepted by the majority of the African culture. May the Yes Bwana syndrome come to an end and embrace a culture of African Ubuntu for the sake of an African development agenda.